everybody. Welcome to Taped Crusaders, Episode 3. This is your co-host, Mike L., and I'm joined by...
Joshua Mervell, and today we're going to be taking a look at the first episode of The Green Hornet.
That's right, and to celebrate, we are joined by the co-host of Moorville Orville, Champ Ian Phillips.
That's me. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Absolutely.
I've heard so many good things.
So just to get everyone acquainted with who you are, as we were talking about before the podcast started, you are the co-owner of Meteor in Windsor. You're the co-host of Moorville Orville. Mm-hmm. And
those are the only things of consequence that I've ever done in my entire life.
Lest we forget, former member of Sun Devil's Sister.
Yes, hi to Phil Premerl and the rest of the gang.
And what genre was that band again?
Oh, I don't remember. Crap rock.
Okay.
Whatever sort of lame alternative nonsense was popular at the time.
So
we just really hoped that girls would notice us, and they never did. So
yeah, I hear you. I'm still there. Anyway, so and here's the other interesting thing about Champ Ian is Ian is a big fan of films, but Ian, you have never read a comic book in your life, correct?
I have never once read a comic book in my entire life.
Wow.
Well, thankfully we do a comic book podcast, so you'll be the perfect guest for that one day. So we'll have you on for sure.
I'll be the fish out of water character on that podcast.
There you go. Yeah. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about a TV show adapted not from a comic book, actually, but it is sort of about a superhero. But before we get into that, Ian, I want to know, do you know anything about the Green Hornet?
I am aware of the concept of the Green Hornet. You say that this is not a comic book adaptation. I grew up as a kid. My dad was a weirdo, and he was really into old-timey radio serials.
Right.
So as a kid, I listened to my fair share of The Shadow or X-1 and the occasional episode of The Green Hornet. Now, I don't remember much of them, but there is a bit of a vibe to it. I don't know if either of you have wandered down that road, but just having nothing but voice acting and these rudimentary sound effects and that sort of thing, it really does create a very interesting atmosphere. So I am a little familiar with the genesis of the Green Hornet franchise.
Well, that's interesting because, that art form, I guess, what would you call that? Just like the radio show or the radio drama? Mm-hmm. It almost doesn't exist now. There might be some form of it that I'm not aware of, maybe on podcasts, maybe. But it's something that the average person today is like almost completely oblivious to, including me. Like I mean, other than maybe listening to episodes of the Superman show when I was a little kid, I wouldn't really know. I couldn't really name you another show. But it is interesting, you know.
Right. I know. I was really interested in War of the Worlds for a while, so I listened to the radio show for that, and that's very interesting. And yeah, I guess you're kind of right. It's because radio is a little bit easier to produce now at home, like with our podcast, it's kind of become a more accessible thing that people can just do. So it's almost gone back to radio, which is pretty
like they
fun
do
and
live readings of scripts and stuff like that during COVID and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, they or like podcasts even have like D&D podcasts where there's like an actual narrative throughout all of the episodes that are planned out, or different things like that. So
there you go. Well,
yeah,
time is a circle, as the Hindus taught us. So speaking of that, we're going to talk about Green Hornet. So no, Green Hornet did not start out as a comic book, but as Ian pointed out, Green Hornet started out as a radio show. And funny enough, Green Hornet started out as a radio show in none other than Detroit, Michigan, which is about 800 meters away from where we are right now. Because Windsor, Ontario is right across the Detroit River from Detroit. So you can't really mention Green Hornet without talking about the Lone Ranger, because the Lone Ranger came first as a radio show, and then as everyone knows, the Lone Ranger expanded into all other media and became this massive hit. So later, the same people who created Lone Ranger, including George W. Trendle and another character whose name I forgot to paste into this document. was also involved in the creation of Green Hornet. And they went as far as to give him his secret identity to be similar to Lone Ranger's. And so Lone Ranger's secret identity, again, I'm reading this off of a document that's hastily pasted together, but Green Hornet's name is Britt Reed, and Lone Ranger's name is something else Reed. If you'll forgive my sloppy research here, maybe I could figure it out later as I go along. But anyway, so yes, the Green Hornet is supposed to be the nephew of the Lone Ranger. That's what's implied by their names, okay? So just like Lone Ranger, Green Hornet has a partner. Lone Ranger had Tonto, Green Hornet has Kato. In the original radio show, if you kind of follow along, at one point he's called, I believe, Chinese, then he's called Filipino, then he's called Japanese, then it's back to Filipino, depending on who the Americans hated at the time, basically, right? Who were they at war with? It's like a very Orwellian kind of explanation, but it's true. By the time they got to this TV show, I don't remember if they ever alluded to what his actual ancestry was, but obviously Bruce Lee is Chinese American, so, you know, do with that as you will. I should also point out that Green Hornet, just like Batman and Robin later, also had a really cool car, in this case called the Black Beauty, just like Batman had the Batmobile. He eventually made his way into 2 movie serials called The Green Hornet and The Green Hornet Strikes Again. He did, of course, eventually have comic books, although not a really long ongoing series. He would usually appear in a few issues that to tie into something, and then it would get canceled. So there's not like hundreds and thousands of comics. It's more just like little bits of them here and there. There's also Green Hornet novels. In China, the Green Hornet show was marketed as the Kato show because Bruce Lee was so popular.
Oh, wow.
So we should also point out this was the first television and film appearance of Bruce Lee, who went on to do a series of films and become obviously the world's most famous martial artist. Technically, I think he invented mixed martial arts. But as Quentin Tarantino taught us in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he wasn't really all that tough. Depending if you want to believe Quentin Tarantino, which I don't believe, so who gives a shit? So anyway, Green Hornet. Now, we should also point out there's many superheroes with a green theme. There's Green Arrow, there's Green Lantern. So there's obviously something about that color that I've always thought is really cool. And since I'm obsessed with the film Vertigo, I've actually learned that green throughout history has always been associated with the supernatural. So, for example, if you're going to do a play and you want to have a ghost on stage, you're going to use the color green. You know, I'm not sure what it is about the color, something about human psychology, but there's something different about it. Like, there's other characters that have imitated Green Hornet. Like, for example, DC has the Crimson Avenger, so his color is red, right? There's also Fox Publishing's Blue Beetle. But blue and red are just not as cool as green. There's something about green, okay, which we'll see. Now, in this TV show, the Green Hornet has a green mask that covers the upper part of his face, revealing just his eyes. But in some of the old movie serials and the books, he had a mask covering his entire face with like a picture of a Green Hornet on it, which is kind of cool, but I prefer this version. Yeah, so it just depends what you like. But anyway, so, you know, we didn't even talk about this before the show podcast started, but Champion, I know that you've got a really good memory, so we were wondering if you would like to summarize this episode for us.
Well, I can try. Not an awful lot happens in this episode. This is more just sort of setting the stage, I think, for what's going to come later on. It sort of illustrates the fact that the Green Hornet, he's working on the side of the law, but he's trying to sort of sew himself into the seedy underbelly of organized crime in the city. And the police actually consider the Green Hornet to be a criminal who they're trying to catch, while the person the Green Hornet he's the owner of the Daily Sentinel, is it?
Yes.
So it's the newspaper in town. So we open up with a funeral for somebody, and the cops roll up, and there's somebody at the funeral that they need to see right away, and he doubles over and dies instantly with no warning, no sound, nothing at all. And it turns out that there is a gun that makes no noise, and it has fallen into the hands of the town's biggest gangster. Is it the biggest gangster? No, it's Al Trump has the gun, and Dan Carly is the big gangster in town, and he's trying to get this gun.
Right.
And he'll stop at nothing to get it. He's already killed a couple of people. He's used it to commit robberies. And the Green Hornet, he figures out who's got this gun by talking to the girlfriend of the guy at the funeral who gets killed. They track him down, and they set up a shady deal where ostensibly the Green Hornet is going to acquire this gun and share half of the criminal proceeds with Al Trump, who's a shady gangster in his own right. Al Trump and Dan Carly, they go behind the Green Hornet's back. They plot to kill him with this gun, but Kato has bugged the meeting. The Green Hornet overhears everything that's happening, so he's prepared for this double cross, and he lures everyone down into the basement, like a parking garage, where they sneak around. The Green Hornet gets the jump on them. Kato rolls in at the last second and blows something up with the car, the Black Beauty, and they end up arresting these criminals, and I guess they retrieve the gun. That's pretty much it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, okay. Now, besides talking about the plot, which I thought was fine, let's talk about the tone of the show. The most obvious comparison is going to be Batman with Adam West. Now, the first thing that clues you in is the voiceover. Is the same guy as Batman. Did anyone notice that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't put two and two together.
Yeah, so Ian, when was the last time you watched the Adam West Batman?
It's been a while, but I watched an awful lot of it as a kid, so I'm very familiar with the vibe, the feel of the show.
So the narration in the show was done by, I don't think it was William Dozier. I think it was a different guy, but
I think it was, actually.
Was it William Dozier?
I think it was.
So it's the same guy. It's the same producer as Batman. The biggest difference with this show is they didn't play it for laughs. It was serious. Mm-hmm. So knowing that, it's kind of cool because, you know, when I was a kid, I loved Batman, Adam West. Then when I was a teenager, I thought, oh, it's not cool. But then when I got older, I realized how good it was. And the thing about it is that if you take away all the humor, it is still cool. This is what we talked about in our last episode of Taped Crusaders. The Batmobile's cool, the suits are cool, the villains are cool, the music's cool. And in this show, that's what it is, right? It's the same thing, but without the jokes, without the satire. So in this show, you get to see the music is cool, the Green Hornet logo, you know, flying in and flying out is cool, the Black Beauty is cool. The fact that the Black Beauty is headquartered in the middle of the city. It's not like in some remote mountain somewhere. It just comes out of the city. I love that. The action, you know, I mean, this is Bruce Lee we're talking about. So the action is actually, it's pretty cool to see. I mean, obviously, it's kind of got this 60s Technicolor vibe, right? With the sets and the bright colors, and I don't know. I mean, I've only seen one episode of the show, but there's only 26, so I could easily go and watch this, and I'm tempted to. So I personally really enjoyed this episode. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was also very surprised by the tone. When it first started, I was like, okay, I'm ready to buckle in for another like goofy romp,
right?
Especially with like the opening and like the silent gun kind of looks like a space like ray gun almost,
right?
And then when the voiceover kicks in, and then even the jazzy music,
right,
really kind of hit home with the whole Adam West Batman, especially since we had just watched and talked about that. And then when things get really serious and it's really just kind of like a detective story figuring out who is murdering these people and trying to retrieve this weapon, I was surprised to see that, and I think it works really well, especially like combining the serious tone of the story and the fact that they're like costumed anti-heroes, I guess, or superheroes.
Right.
It was really good. The acting was really fun as well. It's also still has like a little tiny bit of camp. Like there's moments where you can kind of feel the like old timiness of it. Like even down to like when the villain is defeated at the end, it's like vapor gas or something from a pipe in a parking garage. Like that kind of like gas that would burn your face wouldn't just be out in the open in a parking garage, but it's just, I don't know, it works. I don't know. It's fun though. I really had a lot of fun watching this.
I agree. Ian, what'd you think?
I liked an awful lot of it. There were a couple of issues with it that kind of like had me scratching my head, but overall, I loved the tone. The music I thought was fantastic.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I rewatched it again in certain parts just to hear some of these musical overtures. But a couple of things that had me rolling my eyes a little bit were the police chase, where Kato. This is when the Green Hornet is going to meet the two gangsters for the quote unquote gun demonstration that turns out to be the double cross, and Kato is driving the Black Beauty himself to meet up with them in order to kind of save him at the end. And they have this the lamest police chase I think I've ever seen, where they're just driving on a straight road, and then Kato ducks into an alley, and the cops just drive right by, and they're like, "Oh, we lost him," and he comes out of the alley, and they're like, "Okay, that wasn't very tense, that moment there." And just also rolled my eyes a little bit at the very, very end when he blows up the garage door with the rockets, and that causes Dan Carley to be surprised, and he misses his shot with the gun, and he shoots the steam pipe, and he vaporizes his own face. Like you got very, very lucky there, guys. So there was a little bit of Deus Ex Machina there that,
Sure.
I'm going to give it a pass though, just because this is the inaugural episode of the show.
Right.
And I think it was more about setting up the characters, setting up the fact that the Green Hornet, despite the fact that he is a good guy, he is regarded by the villains as being a fellow villain, which makes it a very interesting dynamic, because you don't have that Batman and the henchman sort of like he's talking down to these people like crime doesn't pay, kids. It's more like, Al Trump, okay, well, I'll talk to Carly for you, otherwise you're going to die, and I'm going to take 50% of the proceeds. It's a very, very different vibe, and I like that sort of the dark, seedy overtones that gives us.
Well, and yes, so Green Hornet was created a few years before Superman, officially before superheroes. So this is closer to something like the Shadow, right?
Right.
Like a pulp vigilante, I guess you could say.
Pulp, I like that word. That's a great description.
Which is something more like Batman was originally, but then once Batman got Robin, and then Batman started to become more of a do-gooder like Superman. I mean, Superman was originally a little bit more violent too, but they kind of lost their edge a little bit, and they got more sanitized. But yeah, this is definitely something that makes Green Hornet stand out. The fact that like you said, he has the appearance of being a villain, and it has the appearance he's wanted by the law, right? So it just gives his character a little bit of a different spin, which I really like. I love his look. I love the green mask, the green headlights on the Black Beauty.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, it's just so cool.
It makes for some great shots where it's like all darkness, and then the green headlights turn on, and it like reflects green on all of like the shiny black parts of the car. Yeah, it's great.
Yep.
And the reveal of the Black Beauty as well is pretty interesting, where they go into the garage, and it's just this weird Rube Goldberg sort of clamps their daily driver to the floor, and then it does this 180 where the floor flips over onto itself and the Black Beauty is rolled up. I just hope that they didn't like leave a coffee in the car, because that's going to be messy.
That'll be messy later.
You're absolutely right. And this is one of the things about superheroes that kind of gets lost, is like it's almost like a James Bondian type thing, like with the Batmobile is so cool, Superman's Fortress of Solitude is so cool, and this is, I'm looking at the shot right now, it's so cool the way this thing flips around and reveals Black Beauty. I love it. So yeah, Black Beauty is cool. unfortunately, no one really knows about Black Beauty and Kato. I dressed up as Kato a couple times for Halloween. No one knew who the hell I was, right? Maybe if we would have had Green Hornet with me, it would have helped. But let's talk about the actors in this show. So we're gonna. There's only really a few to talk about. But first, let's talk about Van Williams as Green Hornet. Josh, what'd you think about Van Williams?
He's great. I think he plays the role perfectly of this, like, in between of cop superhero type character. I love some of his, like, one-liners that he does too. At the beginning, when his secretary walks in and he's pondering the newspaper, like, look at this headline, this mysterious thing happened. She's like, so what's bothering you? Is it the why? No. I mean the how. That's what's bothering me. Like, it's stuff like that. It's like,
right.
That's that kind of like corny camp that I think really works for the show. So yeah, he plays the part well.
Yeah, I think he's great. Ian, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. It had just the right amount of camp to it, but it wasn't corny camp. It was serious camp. It was, again, I'm going to use the word pulp. Like, it really did do a good job of capturing the feel of these old-time radio detectives, where, I don't know, there was something about his voice just worked for the part. Very serious, very matter-of-fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. He wasn't just a blank slate. He was actually better than I expected him to be. He was pretty cool. Okay, I mean, how can we not talk about Bruce Lee as Kato? Kato did not... Apparently, he didn't use real martial arts in the radio show or the comics or anything. It was Bruce Lee that insisted he use, like, actual martial arts. So this was apparently the first time Americans saw Asian martial arts on the big screen. So this is actually what partially led to the martial arts, fad of the 1970s. So, I mean, I love Bruce Lee. I can't really say enough about him, but he's, of course, perfect as Kato. And now, to me, if you were to do a Green Hornet now, today, it's not just Green Hornet whose shoes you have to fill, it's Kato. You've got to get someone that can fill Bruce Lee's shoes. So, Josh, what'd you think of Bruce Lee as Kato?
Yeah, he's great. I wish he had maybe a little bit more to do in this episode. If they are partners and it's going to be like the two of them working together, I kind of wish we got a little bit more of him. Like in the pilot of the Batman, for example, or Batman and Robin, like Adam West Batman. You get just as much Robin as you do Batman. Like, we see the two of them being like a duo together, and this definitely felt like he was more of a sidekick, henchman type character. So I'm curious to see if that changes along the way, and we get to see some more stories featuring Kato. But I think he did a great job, like in the stuff that he did do in this episode. I love that he's all like, he doesn't have anything to do, like, character wise. Like, he doesn't have any input really in a lot of the stuff that happens, but it is also nice to kind of see him, like, driving the car and being able to, like, save the day at the end. So that at least was pretty fun. So
I agree.
Yeah, pretty good though.
All right, Champion, what do you think of Bruce Lee?
Yeah, disarming a guy with nothing but a cigar box and a well-timed kick. Like, they got creative with it, which I liked, but I do agree that he needed more from a character standpoint. And I have to wonder, I haven't really familiarized myself with Bruce Lee's body of work, because I've never really gotten into the whole martial arts, especially the 70s Bruce Lee films and that sort of thing. I'm curious, how would his English have been? Like, did he grow up in the United States?
As far as I know, he grew up in Hong Kong or China.
Yeah.
But he did have a thick accent. His English was good, but not perfect. But he definitely would have sounded, like someone that grew up in China.
Right.
And they did try to give him, like, that at the very end there, when they call the cops and Kato's like, one greased, one parboiled. as we pan down to see Dan Carley's horribly burned face.
Right.
So they tried to give him something, but I wonder if there may have been a language barrier there that prevented them from giving him more dialogue during the actual plot of the show.
He could definitely, he was speaking English fluently. It was just more that, he had an accent. You could definitely tell. So, maybe that was part of it for sure. And he probably wasn't as important. Like, they didn't probably think he was important. It was more just because Bruce Lee made him more important, I think, as the show went on, is why he is as important as he is now, I think.
Could be.
But yeah, so there's not really many other characters to talk about. And to be honest, I don't even know if I remember who anyone else was. But we have to talk about the cop in the show who originally was actually a police commissioner, but they changed it for the show so they didn't have the same rank as Commissioner Gordon in Batman, which started 6 months earlier. So this character's name is District Attorney Frank P. Scanlon, and he's played by Walter Brooke. There's probably not much to say about him, but Josh, what did you think about Walter Brooke in this show?
He was pretty good. I don't know if I remember anything specific that stood out. That's the guy that, like, right at the beginning that comes in to talk about the fact that that one woman is gonna fess up, right?
Yeah, he's got the gray suit and the glasses.
The orange hair. Yeah.
Yeah, when they meet in the secret lair.
Not the orange hair. That's the editor of the Sentinel. I'm talking about the guy with the thick glasses in, like, the secret lair. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. He was fine. He was good.
Yeah. And the cool thing about him is that he knows the Green Hornet's identity. He knows the Green Hornet is Britt Reed, which is cool.
Right.
But so Ian, what'd you think of Walter Brooke?
He was fine. I don't know. He didn't really. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I really don't remember his character at all. Perhaps they flesh him out a little bit more. I think he was just a foil for the Green Hornet there. Like, just okay, this is the guy that I'm talking to.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's,
I mean, I don't really have much to say about him, to be honest. I don't even remember what he did, but he was fine, though. You know, he played it seriously, which was good, so I thought he was fine in that role. There's really only one other person we're going to talk about, and that's Wendy Wagner, who played... is she the secretary? What is she
The secretary, yeah.
Lenore Case is the secretary.
Lenore Case, nicknamed Casey, and she also knows the Green Hornet's secret identity. I mean, again, she didn't have much to do. She looked great, of course. But does anyone else have an opinion on... Oh, geez, I already forgot her name. Wendy Wagner.
What?
Josh.
Not really. She's only really at the beginning of this episode, right? So, yeah, she was... I mean, for a couple, like, the minute maybe we saw her, she was good. And again, it kind of led to that good line that I really liked. So
right.
It seems like they have good chemistry, so hopefully in later episodes they kind of get a chance to explore that and maybe have some more, like, quips and stuff like that. So yeah, great.
Yeah.
Champion.
Given the fact that Lenore Case and Scanlon, the district attorney, are the only two people that know his secret identity, I think we're going to be seeing more of them in a more expanded role. But
yeah.
You know, it was encouraging their chemistry, and she didn't seem to be written as just a fluff character either, because they were actually talking about the case.
Good point. So, okay, here's a question. Batman lasted 3 seasons. Green Hornet only lasted 1. Josh, do you think part of the problem was that Green Hornet played it straight? It was too serious? Or what do you think here?
It could be. I think that the success of Batman is that it is goofy and accessible to kids, which was very marketable. So it kind of blew up in that sense, right? Maybe this was less marketable, especially at the time, and not accessible to every, like, general audiences, and it's more of an adult tone. It might just not have been picked up because it didn't catch the right audience at the time. But I'm surprised that it only lasted the first season. I mean, from this episode at least.
Right.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
not quite sure why.
Yeah, Ian, what do you think? Do you think that's why Green Hornet didn't last? Is because it wasn't funny. It wasn't as fun.
Yeah. I think that the over-the-top campiness of Batman was something that really set it apart from everything else that was going on at the time. So I don't know if this is necessarily a question of why the Green Hornet didn't succeed as much. Maybe it's a question of why Batman did succeed.
Right. Good point.
Like
Good point.
It's sort of a standout. And I mean, like, everything was a struggle to keep on TV at the time, right? Like, Star Trek only lasted 3 seasons, and that ended up being one of the most influential shows of all time.
Right.
So,
Good point. Here's another question. Has anyone seen the Seth Rogen Green Hornet film?
no.
Did you know it existed?
Long time ago.
Because it came and went while we were doing the Comic Book Syndicate, and none of us had any desire to see it. And to be honest, the reason is because they marketed it as a comedy, and it just didn't interest me. The trailer just made it look goofy. I just thought this is going to be BS, so I didn't even bother. But so Josh, you did see it a long time ago. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, they definitely just play it for laughs, from what I remember. This was a while ago. This was 2011, so
yep.
I was still like pretty young at the time, so
11.
I don't remember.
Right. Right.
No, I was 15 probably.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I remember not liking it. My grandpa was a huge fan of Green Hornet.
Interesting.
And he was very excited to see the new movie when it came out. So I'm pretty sure he took me to go see it, and he hated it. He was miserable afterwards. But yeah, it did read, from what I remember, though, as more of like a satire than anything else. So
well, here's the thing. I think the world is ripe for a straight Green Hornet reboot. I'd love to see it. I think they could do it right. I don't want to see it deadly serious like Christopher Nolan. I want to see a little bit of that jazz in there, and I want to see that widescreen Technicolor, look, like almost like what's the word I'm looking for here? Like a pop art type thing. Like, play that up a little bit. Keep that vibe going to at least make it stand out from current superheroes, right? And I think they could do it.
What time period would you set it in? Would you set it in current time, or would you go back to the 30s and 40s and set it in like an old gangster era?
I think you hit the nail on the head. To make it stand out, I think it has to be in the 30s and 40s. What do you think?
Totally.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for a feature, for sure. If you were to make it a show, I can see it fitting nicely into present day, like a TV show that kind of switches it up. But if you're going to do a feature film, definitely make it a period piece and set it then.
I think if you were to set it present day, you could probably make it work, but it would probably get lost in all the other current crime dramas out there. You set it in the past and it stands out.
Right. That's the key. And the thing is with I mentioned a few of the Green Hornet clones, like Blue Beetle and Crimson Avenger. Well, those characters all eventually got spandex, brightly colored costumes. They all became, they kind of changed with the times. And now all those characters are they fit in with everyone else. They're kind of forgotten. But I think you're right. Green Hornet, in order to make him work, he's got to wear a trench coat. He has to wear the mask. He has to have the fedora. He has to have Black Beauty, and make it in the 30s and 40s. And that will make him stand out from modern day superheroes. I think it would be great. And the other thing I want to say about this is that I kind of came up with this as I was watching the show, but I think they've also figured out a way to make Robin work. Because the way that Robin was in the old Batman comics is he was an actual child, like 8 years old or whatever. And then over time he became a teenager, and over time he became a little bit older, to the point that he was drawn so old that they had to kind of graduate him from being Robin and make him Nightwing. And then someone else takes over as Robin, and then he gets killed, and someone else takes over as Robin, and he gets replaced. And now there's like 10 Robins. Why don't they just make Robin... This is the key with Kato. Kato's different from Green Hornet. Kato has different skills. If they made Robin, instead of just being a junior Batman, make Robin better at something than Batman is. Like, if Robin comes from the circus, make him more agile. Maybe make him faster. Make him something, so that he can, instead of being a junior partner, he can be equal, but just different, right? That's just my idea. What do you guys think about that proposal for DC Comics?
they ought to listen to you.
Thank
That's,
you.
that's
Thank you.
valid. That's valid.
There you go.
It's
Josh, what do
not
you think?
it's not nearly as interesting to have like, oh, you're just gonna make this character try to be a little this existing character.
Right.
like
complementary skill
mini
sets.
Yeah, like mini-me Batman, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
make them more of a team for sure. I hope that is the direction they go with the new slate that they've announced.
Right, Brave and the Bold, yeah.
I did some Googling on this reboot, and apparently in June of 2022, they attached a director to make the Green Hornet and Kato movie.
Son of a...
So it's gonna be retitled as the Green Hornet and Kato, which is kind of nice.
Really?
I kind of like that.
Me too. I really like that.
And in July of 2020, Kevin Smith and Wildbrain announced plans to develop a Green Hornet animated series. That was quite a while ago.
Okay.
So I don't know what's going on with that, but
I'm in. I mean,
yeah.
Just so everyone knows, Taped Crusaders will eventually review the Seth Rogen film, so we will be reviewing it at some point.
Perfect.
So I'm looking forward to that.
You mean we have to watch that?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
You better answer the call.
Yes. But anyway, so yeah, I'm a big fan of this, and honestly, I would love to see this remastered for Blu-ray. I would love to watch this in HD. And there's only 26 episodes, so I'll gladly watch the rest of the show. Champion, do you have any intention of theoretically watching more episodes of this show?
It's in my brain now.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to check out a little bit more and see if it fleshes itself out.
Sure.
That's the only thing that I found a little bit weak about, is that it was just a little thin on the plot. Sure. And a little thin on how they got out of the mess that they found themselves in. But if they flesh out some of these characters and some of these supporting characters, like the District Attorney Scanlon,
sure,
and so on, yeah, I think that it could be a very interesting watch.
Awesome. Josh, are you going to watch more Green Hornet?
Yeah, I would definitely watch more. It's not on the top of my watch now list, but okay. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I got the Orville on the top of your watch now list.
Orville and Next Generation.
Yes.
So, yeah,
but it's in there somewhere.
But it is in there. I would definitely watch more of this. I had a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Did I hear you say that they were thinking about an animated Green Hornet series?
Yeah, and it's with Wildbrain, and they're also the ones that developed the Netflix Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego TV show that was very good and won a bunch of awards. Okay. So if they did it in that style of animation and storytelling, I think it could be really good.
You see, I'm not familiar with Wildbrain or anything that they've done, but when I think of a Green Hornet animated series, I think back to the old 1990s Batman animated series.
Oh yeah,
and how well something like the Green Hornet would do in that style.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, Wildbrain has done a lot of different things. They own they're a huge animation company in Canada, and they own something like 25% of children's entertainment in North America, I believe. Like, they're very big, and they have the rights to like Peanuts and Strawberry Shortcake and things like that. So they've done some good, like again, the Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. I think if they did it in that style and had that similar like tone where it was a little bit more on the serious side, I think it could be great.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
But anyway, be sure to join us for future episodes of Taped Crusaders. Like I said, eventually we will be reviewing the Green Hornet film, but that's many an episode away. Next episode, we are going to be reviewing the failed Wonder Woman TV pilot with Kathy Lee Crosby. Ooh. And we will be joined by guest Andrew Barry Helmer. So be sure to be here for that episode. Yep, it's going to be a good time. And on next week's episode of Slam, we will be reviewing Superman. So be sure to join us for that as well. We'd like to thank Champion Phillips for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll be sure to have you on again in a future episode. So we'll keep you posted on who we're reviewing.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome. And Josh, you can take it from here.
Yeah, we also want to thank you guys, the listeners. It really helps when you leave us reviews over on our Facebook or our YouTube channel. You can find us also on our website at thecomicbooksyndicate.com. All of our stuff is there, so all of our posts, videos, podcast, surprise live streams. Mike and I have been jumping on Facebook Live and doing some live broadcasting, talking about breaking news and like DC movies lately. So make sure you check us out there. And yeah, let us know what you guys think about the stuff we're talking about. Let's keep that comics conversation going.
All right, and until next time, see you later.